This is a map of the 10 Gaudevas or sacred groves in and around Danu. We will be seeing a few of the totem poles individually. And this talks about their relationship with nature. Because they have a very great relationship with nature. The history of the Varlis can be traced back to the Neolithic age. There have been paintings found in 2500 BC in the Bhimbetka caves. And according to Yashodhara Dalmai, they're very similar to the Varli geometric figures. So maybe that was their origin. Okay, this is a typical Varli man. He's carrying a pot called a kuchara. They wear this headdress. He used to wear a loincloth, but no more. These are 3 women dressed up in the 9-yard sari. They don't wear much jewelry. They have bangles and this black gati thread around their neck. These are best in a Sunday best. I'm so jealous of these kids because they have the freedom and they're so resourceful in the games that they play. They can climb trees and then they hunt small game with the catapult. These are Varli women returning from the bazaar. As you can see, the unmarried girls do not put their pallo up. Okay, that must be a mother at the back with the 2 siblings. And you can see the transition of the clothes, what is happening. The newer generation is wearing the salwar and the 6-yard sari. Yes, they were all forest dwellers and hunters and gatherers, the Varlis. They hunted wild game and they lived off the land. That is the close connection with them. They lived in harmony with the environment. They didn't know anything else. But the British wanted to exploit the forest for wood. They gave us our first railway line, but they exploited our forests. And they were scared of this. In the era of colonialism, they were forced out of the forest and they were made to settle down in foothills. I think they were scared of the tribals and their customs, especially of the shaman or the bhagat or the witch doctor praying to these stones and totem poles in the forest. So what did? They gave them a piece of land to settle down at the base of the hills. And they converted them from being hunters and gatherers into an agro-pastoral community. They gave them enough land for maybe one family to survive on. But what happened to the second generation? And that's why some of them have become laborers and migrant workers, unfortunately. They were made to live in huts. I mean, they used to live in huts, made of recyclable material. Totally. It's a very old picture. Okay, thatched with grass. And these are called the Karvi reeds. This Karvi reed, called Strobolanthus, blooms once in 5 to 7 years. And no Varli will cut this the year it blooms. And that's the amount of ecological wisdom they have. And when we say that they are illiterate, that is amazing. I wonder how many of us would do that. Here are the bundles which they collect from the forest. These are Varli women, of course, carrying firewood. They go back to the forest for all their needs. They cannot live without going back to the forest for recreation. Not to mention, of course, the wood and the non-timber produce. They hunt game. They have fruits. They harvest fruits there. And a lot of tubers, especially in the monsoon. They live in tune with nature. So what do? Once the monsoon is over, they finish harvesting their paddy, their free time, they start lopping branches sustainably from trees. Okay, they know exactly how much to cut. And then when the monsoon starts, it has a chance to regenerate. And they have got enough firewood to last them the whole of the monsoon. So they don't have to cut any new sprouting branches. This is a rab basket. They have continued the practices of forest cultivation. Okay, this is a rab basket where they collect dry leaves and twigs, and they lay it across the fields. Even they cover it with powder. It is very, very eco-friendly, ecologically sound method of agriculture. Originally, they used to practice shifting cultivation, yes, which is slash and burn. Probably they were the first people to do it. When they cleared a piece of land, it was called varal, and that may be the origin of the word varli. But nowadays, they cover the fields with organic matter and the ash, and they burn it. And this is very sound because the ash gives the nutrients and the fire burns the seeds of the weeds, okay, in traditional agriculture. Because they have to transplanting, and by the time they transplant from the nursery, 15 days, the fields will be covered with weeds. Yes, they have become adopted an agro-pastoral lifestyle now. And their life revolves around the seasons. Of course, they depend on the vagaries of nature. Also, this is where your climate change is going to come in, how it's affecting them. And you can interview them when you come here personally. Yes, so it starts with plowing in the first rains. Then they grow their transplants, the saplings in the nursery, and then they will transplant them. But everywhere, every step of the way, they will be praying to different gods. You have the Phiroza god, the rain god, of course. And then before the transplanting, they have a ceremony called Kauli Khane, where they cook the tender seedlings, and they have a feast of them. They plow with a traditional wooden plow. All of them can't afford bullocks, so sometimes they hire them, maybe in return for a bag of paddy. Last year, the going rate was about 500 rupees. And now let us look at this raincoat. Hands-free raincoat. That's very innovative. And look how they have made it. Because not only is it natural, but it serves two purposes. When they transplant in the fields, they have to bend over. And this way, the hands are free to do what they want. And transplanting is another very important community activity. Because they call their neighbors and said, you help me today do my fields, and I will come and help you do your fields. This is a collage of all the stages of paddy cultivation. And you can see that it is a laborious process, but they're very proud to do it. Now, this is a painting by Jivya Soma Marshe. We will be talking about the Varli paintings. He's a master painter. And he shows you all the stages of growing the paddy. Very important, they respect all the small little creatures in the fields. And of course, they worship the gods. There is threshing, and then they're piling up the piles, and they're all wearing their raincoat. Varli paintings are very, very simplistic, and yet they show you movement, and they communicate what they have to because they used to be illiterate. So this was their method of telling you, storytelling, conveying. Stall feeding is again a very practical thing because they cannot have boundaries along their vast fields. So what do? They tie up the cattle. And so therefore, they can feed them, and yet their fields will remain safe. And I don't have to worry about closing my gate because the cattle will not come in. They're very efficient at constructing huts. Some of them are very lucky to have fields near their houses. This hut was maybe built in 3 weeks in front of me. And this was my Mukadam, overseer. It's a typical Varli homestead. It has these walls of karvi. Now they have the tile roofs. This is his field, and he puts the plow in front of his house. With pride to say, I own land. They're very proud about that. This is an interesting story of my other Mukadam who wanted to expand his house because he had 5 kids. And the first year, he couldn't afford the resources or the time, so he built it out of coconut palms, which he took from my farm. He has coated them, of course, with geru and red mud and powder. And the next year, that is Suresh Alanga and his wife, some of the kids are in the background, he replaced it with the jawar stalks. The karvi reeds have slowly become endangered, and they have found that the jawar stalks also last for 6 years, and they have started planting jawar on the hill slopes, some of them. Since he's built such a big house, he can put the paddy indoors. So sometimes it rains even after harvesting in the month of October. This is a picture of his mother and his daughter. So you have seen 3 generations of the Karanga family. And this open utla, okay, it serves the purpose of a balcony. Basically, they can sit here and have talk, communicate, have socializing with their neighbors, and watch the world go by. Yes, Varli huts are very high maintenance. And nowadays, as you can see, the tiles are being replaced with AC sheets, and they have to put the cow dung probably once a fortnight. Okay, that's a child's cradle being hung, very practical, serves the purpose. They may not be educated, they may not be any architects or engineers, but most of them will be able to build you a hut. You have a 12-pillar framework. He is expanding his house, this gentleman in Raitali, and this was a 9-pillar hut. You can imagine the precision with which it has to be done. Otherwise, the tiles, if they're not placed symmetrically, they will leak in the monsoon. So this is their intuitive knowledge, which they have got transgenerational, probably from their fathers and forefathers. This is a brushwood toilet I came across. Yes, they still go to the river for bathing, and that is the conservation of natural resources of water. But here, where they have to watch the vessels, they will see that they will grow either some vegetables, and nowadays they've started even growing flowers. So they don't waste anything. Inside the houses, this concentric pattern is because it has been lap out with the cow dung, sitting and doing it. We will give you a demonstration when you come here. And very important is the cow dung acts as an insecticide. So there are no flies. These are the huge storage bins called kangli. Here they can put their whole year's stock of rice. This is in Janu's house, which we will be visiting. And they seal it off with cow dung. Even if you put this in a jar, it's going to get weevils. But out here, it stays for a full year. I have witnessed it. And what is practical about this kangli? It is made from a bamboo framework, which is probably available in the market for about 150 or 200 rupees. And if you had to buy a box of that same capacity, it would really cost you a lot. So they're very frugal and practical in their living. I was quite surprised to see this because normally the Gavarli paintings are done on the internal walls. We will tell you why. So this one was on the outside, but what is interesting is they have started introducing ventilation. This was my first painting. Yes, it covers two aspects, very important aspects. One is, of course, they pray, their art is a form of prayer because they're praying to the thanking the Kansari goddess. This is done after harvesting the rice. But the rice is found in their house. I will show you in what. And they dip their fist inside the rice paste and they put it on their wall as a sign of thanking the goddess Kansari for their bountiful harvest. So therefore, what's the second point? Okay. Basically, art and how they use it, and even the prayer. This is a painting again, done by, I think, GPR's grandson. This is a dance called the Kamri dance. And as you can see on the, here, they have showed you the prints. They have showed you the prints that have been put on their wall. So again, they're communicating with you what is done, why is it done. These figures here, which have got this like a halo on their head, are obviously supernatural figures. They believe in the supernatural. Yes, a lot of them do. And of course, they believe in worshipping all the elements of the sun and the moon. Here, they should be making a compound. Very practical if they have to grow a vegetable garden. If you had to compare this with a cost of maybe a barbed wire and cement poles, which anyway don't serve the purpose because they can be climbed over and intruded and entered by goats. So this is their intrinsic knowledge which they have. And sustainable, right? Oh my, this is an engineering marvel. It's a fishing platform. They're so adept at this. This one was elaborate, but the smaller ones, they have so many varieties of fishing traps made of bamboo and so practical. Why? Because the whole monsoon, their main source of protein is going to be fish. And this is, it's got the conical tunnel inside where they don't obstruct the flow of water and the fish will get trapped inside the bottom. The Wali women will catch fish using nets, even in flowing water, or they will even use their old saris throughout the whole monsoon. And even the children, it's very amusing to watch them. And they're entertained as well as they bring home, even with just a handful of fish, they will make you an amazing tasty curry with a lot of spices, of course, in it. And rice gruel is their mainstay because they have grown their own rice. This is a fishing net drawn by Jivya Somamachi. You can see the intricate detail and their knowledge of all, my Alexa. They have all the knowledge of all the sea creatures. They can differentiate between shrimp and the prawn, whether it's the lobster and the tiger prawn, whether it's the small crayfish. They observe nature. Some of the paintings don't have a sense of proportion because they think that these animals are as important as human beings. Here they are doing some manual fishing on the side. This is the tarpa, the wind instrument. What time did I, how much time has passed? Somebody can tell me. And I started my, okay. Am I okay? Am I okay? You're with me? Am I not going too fast?
You're
great.
good. You're good. You're doing great. Thank you.
Thanks. So this is the tarpa or the wind instrument, which is a symbol. When she talked to me about symbols, so this is definitely a symbol of the Waldis because it's unique for them. It's made from a dried gourd, dudi. It's made from 2 bamboos, which of course have the holes in it. And then it has a cone, the what is it called? The horn, the bellows, which is made up of a rolled up tardy leaf, Palmyra palm. Then they have the beeswax, which seals it. Okay. And even the string used to be organic. So totally made from natural materials. I was very happy to see in the Kalagoda festival that they have started selling their products and people are appreciating them and buying them. Some of them even want to learn to play them. And that is a gangli instrument we will come to in one of the bigger, more detailed pujas. This is the best way to store tarpa because it is very, very fragile. Okay, now we come to the tarpa dance. This is again as important as the tarpa because, of course, they all believe that everything is cyclic in nature, right? And they believe that there's an annual cycle of work, Thanksgiving, enjoyment, and then work again. This tarpa dance is unique because they will dance to the little tune of the tarpa or the chala. But it is the tarpa player who will decide how fast to go, when to change the direction, when to change the tune, and when it reaches a crescendo. There are lots of videos available on YouTube. Please watch it. This again is a painting by Jivya Soma Mashi. Does it appear as if the dancers are moving? It does to me at least. And you can see that the women and men are in no particular order. That is the gender equality. Okay, you can join in anytime. And it is symbolic because it's open-ended circle. The Wardis believe that death is not the end of life, but it's a new beginning. And the cyclic nature of time is played out in all spheres of their life. And there he shows some other dances on either side. We don't have, we will see that when you come here, we will see a lot of paintings. Yes. This is the Nawabhat Puja, a very important puja, which is done after they harvest their crop. And they have these gods, okay? We will see them in detail afterwards, put in the basket. And they're thanking God. And it's very important even to thank the musical instruments. They even have the musical instruments. And you'll see the ones behind this, because I'm looking at myself in front of it, covering it. They thank Kansari goddess, she's the goddess of grain. They have 3 main goddesses. Dhartari is the goddess of earth. Then you have Kansari, who's the goddess of grain. And you have Gayatri, which is the goddess of the living kingdom, the cows. There are many musical instruments. There the kaheli, which is a metal clarinet, which is played during pujas. And you have the kamri drums, which is played at the death ceremony. Very intricate ceremony, played whole night. It's such a droning voice, but it's the skill, speciality. And they're all drinking toddy because they have to get into the mood. This is the dhol or drum played for the dhol natch. There are many different types of dances. I've only been able to show you a few out here. This is the painting done by Madhukar Wadu, whose book I've translated. And there are 21 different musical instruments he has showed here. Most of them are maybe flutes, pipes, different types of drums, etc., etc. Yes, this is the Wadli couple in front of the Lagna Chowk. The wedding is, I think, one of the most important ceremonies for them. And as you can see, it's very elaborate. We will talk about this chowk. We won't be able to go into all the details, but here on the left, something called the Dev Chowk. Dev is, of course, the god. It's a five-headed person called the Dev, the Panchkris, yeah, on the horse, which symbolizes vitality. And this was always usually drawn by the women. It's drawn, okay. Now this is, again, I told you about the ukhal, where the rice is pounded, and with the rice flour, they make this geometric pattern around it. This is probably the origin of the Lagna Chowk and origin of all Warli paintings. One of the important ceremonies is the mandap. Now we talk about sustainability. So they actually plant a branch. They go and harvest it from the forest. They plant a branch of the wood tree, okay, which is a fig tree, which is a keystone species, okay, during the wedding. So that's so nice. We say, no, plant one tree for your own lifetime to give you oxygen. So they actually do it. For the Mandap Devta, again, it is also to honor the god. The groom is given a symbolic purification bath. You have the 4 matkas representing the 4 directions, and the coconut represents the embryo. Okay, so the boys are covered with haldi and made to sit on these patlas, but the water has to be brought from a well. That is very important. Here in more detail is the ukhal and the musal. The musal is a very heavy, mostly ebony wood, and this is the ukhal where they grind or pound the rice. In the olden days, they used to do it on a daily basis for the everyday's amount of rice they want to eat. Today, of course, they take it to the mill. It's become simpler. But for the wedding ceremonies, they have to pound it in the house. It's like a bastu because this rice is grown in their fields, pound in their house, and then the paste is used to paint this Lagna Chowk. This is the traditional painting of the Lagna Chowk. Very important. The wedding ceremony cannot take place without it because it's an invitation to the goddess Palkata. She's the goddess of fertility. Okay? And the Suhasins of the married women will paint this. And we have the priestesses are also women called Dhauleris who conduct the ceremony. You have a question? Somebody's asking a question? Hello? I heard somebody.
I think we are fine.
Okay, somebody started raining in the background. We hope the power doesn't go now. I have a backup. Okay, so this is again the goddess Palkata in the middle. I won't go into detail all this. We will go to Janu's house where he has this painted on his wall, and we will discuss. It's replete with symbolism. What all of these things stand for, including these 5 bulls. Here, because 2 brothers got married, there are 2 Dev Chowks. And nowadays they write their names, of course, because they have learned to read and write. The Bhagat performs the puja. Okay? And in them, if the 2 brothers are getting married, I mean, one brother has already been married earlier, in the sense that he could not afford a marriage ceremony. So whenever they can afford, they pool their resources together. This is their sustainable way of life. Okay, they don't want to borrow money from a money lender. So they wait till they get enough money or the other brother wants to get married. And then she's sitting here just to consummate the marriage. Means to give it respect. She already has a kid. Here's in detail what the pujari will put. Of course, we have the simple elements, the banana, you have these little rice piles, you have the diva, and they make this out of flour. Okay, so you are representing the earth, the dhartari, the gautari, and all the elements. The bride, by the way, gets a dowry of 3 saris. The wedding is a long process, it's 4 days long, where it's first held in both the boys and the bride's house. Then the groom has to go to the bride's house and offer her a bride price. And if it is approved, then only the wedding will take place. And then they will bring her back. So she's given saris and enough rice for a whole year. This is the winnowing fan called the supra. We use it, of course, to, even sieve rice. And this is they make a garland out of cloth and haldi and supari, betel nut to wear around their things, which is natural. And the basing, which is the headdress worn, used to also be natural. And I managed to luckily see one function where they were using it out of these rui flowers, calyptopis, and even pieces of coconut are used. So this is how everything in their wedding used to be sustainable, reusable. There's medicinal properties, the rui, so they will propagate the plant and they will look after it. For the wedding, the whole village is invited. Yes, here the women cutting using koita. Hopefully some of you will get to use the koita and maybe cut some paddy, because there's a second crop will be grown where there's canal water. So we will talk about that. You will see that. Yes, consumerism has reached them. Even they're having thumbs up, but they're still having it in the leaf, okay, or the drone. Very difficult to drink. I spill it when I try it. But for them, the kids are so adept at it. Even the kids are adept at it. Because they're working, they have not put the pallava. Most of them are mothers. And they're wearing the black gati. We'll see. This is the jata or the grinding stone. Again, it was used to grind haldi for the haldi kuku ceremony. In the olden days, they made the rice flour out of this for the chapatis. on a daily basis. Now they take it to the mill. So this is where everything else, we are catching up with the urbanization. Some of them still have it, but most of it just have kept it outside their doors. These are the artifacts or the practical things that they have. Have this basket made out of these leaves, palash leaves, okay, which you serve food in some restaurants in Bombay and then. And amazing, because where would you hang a jar from your rafter? And they put either dry fish in it doesn't smell, or they will put tamarind leaves. They will sell the tamarind, but they will use the tender leaves. And believe me, they taste just as good and just as sour to spice up their food. This is again a petya after it has dried up, but it still serves the purpose. Now we come to toddy tapping. Yes, toddy tapping is a subsidiary occupation, but it's very skillful because it's very important. You know that toddy trees are tapped every alternate year as well as every week. Otherwise, the tree will die. If this V cut is made too deep, again the tree will die. And it has to be cleaned daily. If you want Neera or the sweet toddy, you have to rain. Yes, they brew liquor at home. Hopefully, Janu's son does it. You'll get to observe this. They used to use mawa flowers, which are now getting rarer and rarer in the month of May. And otherwise, they do it from black jaggery. And you can get a 500 ml Pepsi bottle for 50 rupees. It's quite smooth. This is a pictorial representation how they used to do it in a matka, okay? The distillation process in the olden days. They harvest honey, yes, honeycombs from the forest, but they have a folklore about this. They say if you don't pray to the god first, ask their permission, or if you have committed a sin, you will get hurt or you will fall down and die. So this is very important for them. They're very God-fearing. Okay, they have a lot of folklores and myths. This is the Mahalakshmi, Mother Goddess. Yes, the cult of the Mother Goddess is prevalent among the Valis, and they congregate here for all important occasions. Conical Peak represents the female reproductive system, and in March they have a big festival out here. Now we come to my favorite topic, which is the Devrai or the sacred groves. Okay, when we talk about sustainability, they house totems to many, many gods. They have to be out in the open because they need to communicate. This was one which slowly and slowly, the same Devrai has got enclosed first with a 2-foot wall and then a higher wall. These are their totems. And they believe, one minute, where is page number 1? There's one nice paragraph I've written. Totems remind them of their mythic past, right? And this ancestral spirit, it demands a molded form. So they have these 3 feet high wooden planks with these disc-like heads. Very symbolic they are. Their chief gods are all elemental in nature. Here on the left, you have the Vagya, and then you have the rain god in the middle called the Meghya, and you have the Chand Mata, which is the moon god. What they tell the tiger is you look after us and we will look after the forest for you. Such a symbiotic relationship. Because then if the tiger has enough natural game to hunt, why will he disturb human habitation? This is what they understood from before. Here is the same sacred grove has got walls being built around it. Somebody wants to do CSR, some company, so they said, okay, let us do something, and they offer them to build a wall. They don't understand the nuances of it, how these have to communicate with all the elements of nature. These are all their gods. You have the sun, the moon, the pole star, then you have the lightning, Vijay Sir, Gaje Sir, the thunder, Dhage Sir, the clouds, and Abe Sir. So very important, and the wind. Okay, they are very important that they communicate with all the elements of nature. As usual, I said that they're God-fearing. Yes. And these are different totem poles on the way to Sakra Dam. They said that here, they were evil spirits to trouble people. So they started first putting red tika vermilion on these stones and then the flowers And of course, the wall came much later. And then I don't know when the flags came up. This is in a more advanced area where now they have enclosed this Vagya, but you can still clearly see the tiger on it with the sun and the moon. And whenever I pass here, there are lots of coconuts worshipped here, lots of coconuts broken here. And maybe he's the keeper of the temple. This again is at Devgaon. We'll be visiting this for tribal grove. And of course, it's been after a ceremony, so there are lots of flowers have been placed. But I prefer this picture where you can see it in its natural form, the god. And what is important is at the base of it, they've got this, again, the geometric pattern made out of haldi, kunku, vermilion, and the rice paste. Then maybe the origin of the Lagna Chowk, all the ceremonies. This is that same sacred grove from a distance. Wherever you see the tallest tree surrounding a village, you realize that there has to be a sacred grove there, because no Warli will cut any tree in the surrounding. There are thick lianas amongst many of them, because of course they're scared of the spirits also, but out of respect. And this is how biodiversity is preserved in situ, exactly where the sacred grove is. Because you have, this is, look at the size of these creepers, Tarzan's creepers. Okay, and this is like 200 meters from a main road on the way to Govardhan. I used to conduct a field trip here during the Chiku festival. This one is at Dongri Pada. Okay, this one is drawn on stone, and I have witnessed a all-night ceremony after Diwali called the Jagran ceremony. Okay, they keep a vigil to recharge the spirits. It has to be done. And if somebody in the village has got what they call Devi, which is smallpox, then that year they do not offer animal sacrifice. Otherwise, all their pujas, of course, have an animal sacrifice. We will come to that. So this is the Bhagat here, and these are his helpers. And of course, they say Angatiyate, so the spirits will enter the body and they will start shaking uncontrollably, and they will circumambulate the stone. This is another mandir at Ambesari. What is important is these made of wood, right? So they have a life. Every 50 years, maybe they have to be replaced, but they will not discard the old ones. They will keep them nearby in some tree, because they could be still emanating some sort of vibrations. It is the Bhagat who decides whether to have a wooden totem or a stone totem, and he decides where. He gets this sort of feeling, sixth sense, where he can feel a vibration, and he decides where to put the totem pole. This one, of course, is at Ashagad, a very populated area. Why I want to show you this is show you that how slowly acculturation is taking place, right? They're absorbing more and more of the Hindu custom. This is what it was originally, and this is what it has become. You can see that the Nandi has entered, people have started putting their small statues of gods. But the Valis are very tolerant. They allow this. Okay, they're very tolerant about it. They follow their customs. They're only peace-loving. You don't interfere with us, and we have no objection. This is Loth Day, yes. Well, you can call it superstition or you can call it faith. They believe that barren women who pray to this god will conceive and get a child. You will see a lot of people coming here and pray. We will see this on the way to Ganjar, and the tree behind it is totally hollow. That is what is amazing about it. This is another amusing totem I find, Barkat Dev, because it's got the eyes. And this is a fishing net again. See the big fishing net at the back, like the big one I showed you, because it's near a river and a stream. Yes, there are also wooden memorials made to respect or commemorate the warriors or the dead, and they're called the Veer. Very elaborate patterns they have on them. As you can see, again, it has the head. Of course, we call it, they say, the anthropomorphic form, right? They give it like a human figure, and that is the speciality of all Warli paintings and figures and totem poles. This is at Raitali, where we'll be going. We'll be seeing this one. But this is an elaborate puja in progress. You can see all the regular stuff put. And here the elder Bhagat is training up the younger Bhagat. It's a very arduous process. They have to spend 1 month in the forest, absolutely without any contact with anybody from outside, fend for themselves, and sit with nature, meditate. I don't know the exact details, but I've heard about it. Yes. But there are fewer and fewer of them are willing to continue doing this. The whole village contributes to this, and it's like a festival. Okay, this is Dhabbag. When I got married, I would see my woman in the house having these ugly burn marks near her navel. And I said, what is this? And she said, Dhab. What happened? So this has got 2 points of view. One says, of course, it keeps when they do the cauterization with this hot iron, it gets rid of the evil spirits. And the other story says, well, after they do this, the pain is so much that they forget about pain anywhere else in the body. Okay. The witch doctors, a lot of them used to have faith. This was my servant who got jaundice, and he tied this around his neck, and within 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks less, I think in 1 week she came back to work, it became elongated, okay, the necklace, and she was back to work in less than a week. This is the elaborate puja called the Kuldev puja. Can you imagine, we talk about the green god today, turning green. They worship the peacock feathers, and it's called Hirwa. Hirwa means the green god, and they've been worshipping this for years. They have this, they hang this little thing out here, and they have these baskets where they have silver figurines. They have all the musical instruments here, but this guy has to play the gangli, which is supposed to be made from twin pumpkins. They have to have grown as a twin, so there are less and less of them available today, if they're authentic. Elaborate puja done once a year. This one has been done in Jawar. Here are the small silver figurines, and they're put in the rice, the fresh rice which is grown. They will wash them and re-put them. And it's kept in somebody's house, one person's house, who is, of course, honored to keep it in their house for the whole year. Chicken sacrifice during the Gaudev puja. Yes. Gaudev means, of course, the whole village collects and has a puja. Okay, so what is interesting, I'll just jump 2 slides, is the Bhagat will put rice grains into this pot of water, and he will ask questions. Tell me what you want. Is 1 chicken enough? And if the rice grains settle to the bottom, then he says, okay, that means it says yes. And if they don't, that means he said, okay, now what is it? Then you want 2 chickens. And so it goes on. And then, of course, some of them are even, this is the one at Raitali. I mean, the one earlier I showed you, where the goat is being asked to be sacrificed. It is after the harvesting, okay, this puja is held. And so they put their harvested rice on top also to worship it. Sustainable living. Yes. As usual, as I showed you, the people will walk around and they think that each of them, the children, before they reach puberty or a little bit after that, the boy should have this experience of being embodied with the spirit. So either the Bhagat decides, says, come on, get up, you also. First, they start doing it consciously, but then it takes over and they're able to do it unconsciously. They just shake, okay? And it's supposed to, the spirit's supposed to enter them. We say, Angatiyate, Angatala, Angatala. Here you can see again the musicians sitting all around. This is the Ravit Puja, which is held once in 5 years, okay, for the good of the whole village. Okay, that they will have a good harvest, they will not have any problems, and they get a sponsor, they get a couple. First, the children are fed, and then they have this mandap out here, which they put the yoke of the cattle. So again, they're worshipping all the elements. And this was the couple who had sponsored it the year which I attended it, very near my house, for good health, many years ago. And now we come to the Wali paintings, and very simple geometric figures. Okay, the circle represents, of course, the sun or the moon. Then you have the triangle, which could be the mountains. And 2 triangles are joined together to create the human body, to create human figures. And it depends on the angle with which they are placed that they will show you movement. Look at these 2 women talking out here. Look at this man walking with the pot. Look at this lady carrying a child on her hip. Okay, depending on the weight, he's bending forward. And this also tells you the story of pot making, which you can see it for yourself. All the stages of pot making. This, I'm very proud to tell you about this, that I had a foreigner visit me and he saw this mural I have on my wall downstairs. And he asked me, can you show me, tell me the painter who did it? So I took him to Rajesh's house, and then he corresponded, or he communicated with 3 of them. And over a period of 3 months, he asked them to send him pictures of paintings, about 100 paintings. And he arranged a trip for 3 painters from Danu to go to France. This is Monkey Pie's painting. She's feeding the chickens here. And this lady, totally illiterate, at the age of 60, for the first time in her life, sat in a plane and she went to France. She really floored them with all her singing their local songs, and she did the aarti, and of course, her Nawari sari, yes, and her jovial attitude. Yeah. Here again, she's drawing the Lagna Chowk. This is Rajesh Moore, who has not only been to France, but later on was even selected by the Wall Art Festival Japanese to go to Japan. Till today, I have not been to Japan. So it makes me proud to say that they've been given these opportunities and they're getting there. Akiko used to say that his trees look like lace, the way he paints them. He's become a tree expert. And a friend of his has a workshop in Vikramgarh where he employs Adivasis. And they make these artifacts now and sell them. Yes, I'm coming to the end of my presentation. This is one of his trees where he has, of course, learned to show you the bark and the roots. Very important. They all know where the trees need the roots to live on. And then they will show you a small episode or a story. We do not have time to go into that. And these are the Dev Pakshi, supernatural birds. Now we come to Jivya Soma Mashi, who is the master painter. This is an old picture in his old house with his wife. That again is the big kangri at the back, which has been storing the rice. Here he's painting, as you can see, a totem pole, right? And here he's sitting in his present house. We will be visiting Praveen, his grandson, and he will be showing us these paintings which are on the wall for display. And he says, for me, work is like worship. It's form of meditation. Why did he get the Padma Shri? He got a gun salute when he died. And because he was the first painter to have taken the paintings from the walls onto canvas. There's a story behind it. He accompanied 3 women who were called to Delhi, okay, by Indira Gandhi, invited there. And after day 1, they said, we only know how to paint the different ways of the choke. So the organizer came and said, nothing doing, tomorrow you have to paint something new. So Jivya said, okay, I can paint you scenes from my village life. But originally, Warli paintings only talked about their lifestyle. And now they have started introducing folklore into them. Here you can see the intricate fishnet painting that he is doing. Divya used a bamboo stick which he used to chew to make it into a paintbrush, and he used to use gum inside the rice flour. Okay, very, very tedious, laborious. Nowadays, all the painters use poster colors. Here they used to have a natural gum with the rice flour for the painting. This is Janu's house we'll be going to, Janu Raute. He is also illiterate, a painter who has drawn an elaborate chalk. And he has a chalk in his wall in his house, of course, for his son's wedding. And this is his son, Sanjay, which is a success story, who has opted to become a painter in spite of having studied till 11th standard. And is very happy doing it. He used to accompany his father for workshops, which I used to conduct. He saw the amount of respect his father was getting as a painter. And he has decided to become a painter. This is the way they have pictorially represented in Madhuka's book, certain things, certain artifacts, and certain scenes from their daily life. They now paint, of course, on kurtas, saris, artifacts, so they are diversifying. Some of them experiment. This is a picture of Shiva, and they have the story of Genesis, which is inside a pumpkin. Yeah. There's the whole story about it. Here is the painting done by Rajesh, which shows them holding up the world and striving for a better life. When we conduct workshops, we use these to teach the children how to draw animals. You can see the crab, you can see the tiger. And Danu boasts of a chowk now, Tarpa Chowk, where they celebrate, it was just celebrated on the 9th of August. It's called Jagtik Divas. All over the taluka, everywhere they hold these programs. And this is now, they have made a mural of metal Tarpa Chowk at Danu. I try to create awareness whenever there are exhibitions in school about the indigenous knowledge, their sustainable lifestyle, and the indigenous knowledge, which is so important. And then we have the Chiku Festival once a year, which is 2 years ago, has reached great proportions, where we create awareness again for the same well. We have a mock pada, we have a mock thing. And the last 6 lines I will read to you. The Warlis live very simply. They're very self-reliant and self-sufficient. And their lifestyle is based on the true principles of sustainability. But the pace at which life moves normally is very gentle and relaxed. Unfortunately, the customs are changing at a very fast pace due to outside influences and urbanization. And this is leading to a loss of this traditional knowledge. That is why we need to document it. Indigenous knowledge is sustainable knowledge. And they teach us to press the pause button and to take a closer look at life. And we have a lot to learn from them because they're a living heritage. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation to give you an idea about their sustainable lifestyle, about the community practices, and we can have questions now.
Thank you so much, Phiroza.
How much time did I finish it in?
This was
I lost-
excellent. 1 hour exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. It's okay. It's so interesting and so informative. What I would suggest now is maybe 1 or 2 questions. You
Otherwise,
can
in the
raise your
chat, I can
hand,
answer them.
or you can put them in the chat. There were several comments during your presentation, similarities with other regions of India, other practices.
Yes.
So
yes.
that was very interesting.
Okay.
I see comments about the biodiversity traditions of
yes,
preservation.
Yes. Atari in Punjab. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We'll save this
So-
chat.
Okay. Are there questions? Any questions? Of course, we're going to meet Phiroza.
Yes, of course.
We're going to see each other. If you cannot come up with a question, that's fine. We're going to take a 10-minute break. And in the meantime, I would love you to write your aha moments from the documentary and Phiroza's presentation. Okay.
Visual anthropology. I like
yes,
that.
Patrika, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Gabriela ji, can I ask a quick question to Phiroza ji?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah. So we talked about that due to urbanization, the tradition, it's leading to the loss of traditional knowledge. But I believe that urbanization is inevitable in today's times because and it drives us towards modernization, which is the need of the time, right? With globalization and everything happening. So my question is, are the Warli tribes doing something to preserve their traditions while moving towards modernization?
Yes, even if they have left home and they've gone as migrant laborers, they come back for their festivals. They believe in that. They think that's very important. And they will come back, of course, to till their land. So they do come back for the festivals. Yeah, there was a friend of mine, a student, did a cultural mapping for her MSc on the Warli tribes. It's documented, I think, in TAC. Yeah.
And then while they're away from home, do they practice all these things?
No, not possible.
Yeah.
Not possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so I also have Milinji asking a question about the language that they speak.
Oh, the Warli language. Yes, it's a mix. It's a mix. Yeah, it's very rudimentary. It's Marathi, but they will say Aag Petwa, Jhapa Ugra. You know, it's colloquialized Marathi.
I noticed that Hindi was also written in some of the paintings.
Yes. The script is it's Marathi.
It's Devanagari. Yeah.
Devanagari.
Phiroza ji, what do they call you? That's a very important thing.
I'm wondering. I'm wondering what do they call me? Not Thai. Not Thai.
So that reflects the language.
They would call me Madam C because I own a farm. But anyway, when I got married and came, I thought I was a liberated woman, you know, Xavier's College. And I was like, and I saw these women smoking with the guy, drinking with the guy, living with the guy. We'll come to that later, the customs. And if she conceived, then it was up to her if she wanted to marry him. And I'm like, wow, they're more liberated than we are. They've been doing it for eons, what they're trying to do in the West today. Yeah, that's totally...
Wonderful. We have Rachna with the last question.
Okay. Yes, Phiroza ji, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I was actually very, very interested in one aspect of this whole presentation and also the video that I saw on YouTube. It's about the slash and burn.
Yeah.
So how do they, well, first of all, how do they control the slash and burn? Because they don't want the whole village.
They're very adept at that. They will clear some part of it first. They observe the wind direction. They have helpers. They beat it out. But there's less and less of that now. Because they've been given land, even though they are encroaching into the forests. They are.
Okay. And also about, I mean, the toxic, because when you burn cow dung, you generate a lot of toxic fumes like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. What are they doing to mitigate that?
They get the NPK right from it, and it's in open vast tracks. So
Okay.
I mean, otherwise you want them to put chemical fertilizer, which is worse.
No. I was just wondering. No,
You're getting the NPK naturally.
Okay.
Okay, I got
Just
it. I got
thinking
it.
from the
Offset it.
environmental
Yes.
impact. Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
this was wonderful. Thank you, Phiroza, for joining
you.
us and for offering this.
No,
wonderful
I will stay
presentation.
on for the next presentation. I can last till.
Okay, sure. And we're going to have Gautami Shah from the University of Austin, Texas. She will talk to us now. She will switch gears and she will talk to us about how language can be used and should be used to embrace diversity. Let's take, we have only 4-minute break. Let's take 4 minutes. If you have more questions for Phiroza, you can write them down in the chat. If not, I will see you at 11:11. 4-minute break.
Okay.
So, Phiroza, you can now stop sharing the screen.
Yeah, okay. What do I do? Stop share. Fine. Done. Done?
Yes, thank you. It was a great presentation, Phiroza, I must say.
Ready? Give me a second. So not a problem at all for just a second. For some reason, my screen sharing. Let's try it again.
It's fine now.
Perfect. So not a problem at all. And that was a very, very interesting presentation. Thank you so much, Phiroza ji. It really actually is a perfect segue into what I am going to be talking about today. And just a second.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm just, okay. So before we start, I'm going to stop and start again once more. I'm sorry, but it's not displaying properly on my end for some reason. I'm terribly sorry about that.
You want to click on play on top?
No, I've done that, but it's something I lose everything else, which I normally don't. But I think we can kind of manage. Okay, so yeah, that and Phiroza, it was very interesting for me to hear that you are from St. Xavier's, because first I was going to thank you blindly for taking me back to the Varli people, because I'm from a St. Xavier's product, and in the 1980s, that was my first encounter and trip to the Varli peoples. I did a little bit of work with them there for a while. So it was very interesting that it's the same connection, the St. Xavier's connection, that takes us there. Thank you very much. Well, for today, I am going to basically not just have a conversation with everyone, nothing new, something we all know, putting it in perspective before you'll start on this wonderful journey ahead of you. So before we start, I would like you all to again in chat once more, start entering things. What comes to mind when you think of when you hear the word India? Let's start with that. Just put in whatever you think of when you hear India. What comes to mind? Okay, some say home, Bharat, India, my home, India, cultural diversity, and a happy place, diverse languages, birthplace, motherland, very rich, diverse culture, heritage, unity, and diversity. Perfect. What comes to mind when you hear the word rural? That's going a little faster. Antiquity, nature, village, gram, villages, traditional practices, unique culture, rural, true roots, close to nature, beautiful, no roads, no electricity, no proper water. Excellent. And traditional living, cow dung. Perfect. Yep, cow dung is very important in life. What comes to mind when we hear the word tribal? Come on, tribal. Smart living, Adivasi forests, okay, Adivasi land, nature, Mira, harmonious living practices. Perfect. Respect for Mother Nature, originating from a tribe, group of people close to nature, not reached by government. Very interesting. Yes, and very important too. All of these are important and interesting. Let's switch gears a little bit. And why don't you write in the chat what comes to mind when you hear the words diversity, equity, and inclusion? Important in today's world, okay. Variety, race, gender, class divisions, all have some opportunity to grow, dignity, what I grew up with. Nice. What else? Diversity is representation, acceptance, contribution. Okay, people follow different practices in daily life, creating and sustaining comfort space for everyone, changing standards in academia, businesses, etc. Excellent. So we have a lot of material already. We already have some idea of each of the words, each of the concepts out there that I threw out. India, rural, tribal, diversity, equity, inclusion. So what we're going to do right now is a conversation. And these are excellent starting points. And today we shall have a conversation about the latter, namely diversity, equity, and inclusion in relation to what we started off with India, rural, tribal, and in making our pedagogy, because that is basically the end goal of your project, getting materials for pedagogy. So making our pedagogy inclusive. So we're going to start with the latter, with diversity, equity, and inclusion in relation to India, rural, tribal, and making our pedagogy inclusive. This conversation shall be twofold. I did not ask you this, but we can come back to it. What do you hear when you hear the word inclusive pedagogy? We'll come back to it. So this conversation shall be twofold. We shall examine DEI, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'll often be saying DEI instead, through two lenses. While you are in India, what it means when in India collecting the materials, and also from the point of view of what it will, or the lens of what it will mean when you get back and curate the materials. What it means for the students towards whom these materials are geared. Let's start off with what does DEI mean in the context of this project. It's nothing new, we all are aware of it. We're just going through refamiliarizing ourselves with it. So DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is basically sensitizing oneself and subsequent use of appropriate language after you have sensitized yourself. It is about being aware. It's something to remind ourselves. Being aware, for example, so someone had written race when you hear DEI. So let's start with that point. Now, I think most of us in this group, or all of us, I suspect, believe we are not racists, right? We believe we are not racist, but there is a difference in believing you're not racist and being anti-racist. This is a small example. I firmly believe, I used to believe I'm not racist. When I re-examine my practices or my thoughts, there are times when I have racist thoughts. And we all have that. So I have learned to call myself, I'm not racist, I'm anti-racist. Because that way, each time I indulge in racism, unconsciously, I become a little more conscious. Oh, you know what? I didn't realize, but that was a little racist of me. So I'm against racism. I do not want to be a racist, but I am basically first seeing everything in me. It's one thing to point fingers at others and say, oh, that person is a racist, because I see overt racism there. But how many times have we are very colorist in India, very colorist. Color is important. How often, even if you're not colorist in your personal life about your friends, etc., how often have you sometimes, oh, you've seen a Black person, if you're living in the US, walking, and you've clutched your handbag a little closer to yourself. You are not really a racist, as you know racism, but that was a little racist reaction. So be aware of that, being aware of yourself, and then being aware of what's out there. That is important. So when we want to, for our project, now that is because we all think of DEI as racism, classism, etc. But no, it's also about the other things we do. So we're going to talk about those pitfalls. So from our project viewpoint, for example, exoticizing. We're going to a rural area here, and we all end up exoticizing at some level. So there's one thing as I do not exoticize, that may not quite be true. You might land up exoticizing when you're collecting your materials. Like, oh, wow, fascinating. Yes, it's one thing to help preserve a culture. It's another thing to exoticize it. So do not exoticize the culture. Be against exoticizing it, or be aware when you are actually doing your work is towards preserving it, or your work is kind of, wow, see, they are exotic and we have a lot to learn from them. We have a lot to learn, but it's because this is sustainable, because it is something that is going to help the future, not because it's exotic. Use of appropriate language is important. Nomenclature. For example, I asked you the word tribal. It really took me a lot to kind of clench my teeth and write that word. Because again, tribal, what are associations? People think tribal, they think exotic, versus Adivasi, a much more appropriate term. It's just like in the US, and I'm talking about US because all the participants are going from the US. One does not say Red Indian. One does not Indian. Native Americans, right? So that's the word in English, tribal, but move away. It's okay to start using words like Adivasi. That is something that people who come from Adivasi communities would rather be called Adivasis, not tribals, or the Varli people, right? So ask questions about equivalent when you're be aware of it. I've written be aware of social realities. Ground reality is often different. Social reality is often different than what actual life is. For example, this might not be very relevant to the project. We'll come to the project, but this brings out the stark dissonance I'm talking about. There is a very recent dissonance we're seeing. We have a legal reality where now legally in India, we have 3 genders, right? Male, female, and transgender. However, the language that we are gathering material for or going to make materials, Hindi, the language, India is the parent culture of Hindi. The language still does not allow people to express themselves beyond masculine or feminine. In Hindi, मैं जाता हूं, मैं जाती हूं. So if you say you're transgender, you're forced, you cannot be non-binary. You're still forced to talk about. So linguistic features can be a little problematic. You're forced to still choose whether you're transgender, male or female. If you're non-binary, you don't have a language for yourself. We don't have a pronoun problem like many other languages, but we do have a conjugation problem. So these are small things to keep in mind. Now, coming to this particular project, what are the social realities? Social reality is those.
Gautami,
Yeah.
are you using the slides because they're not moving, or is this still
I am
introduction?
using them, and so okay. So
so they are not.
They're not moving, right?
No,
I'm
no.
going to stop share again and try. I wonder what is happening. When I tried, I'm going to try.
Send them to me in the meantime if you want to. Oh, now we see. Now we see you're on the sensitizing oneself.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
now it's
you.
moving.
Okay. Okay, that's what I feared. So we finished this, and we're going to talk about while in India and the pedagogical lens when you'll come back. Right now, we're while in India. It's sensitizing oneself, being aware of social realities. So we're done with it, not done. We'll never be done with any of them, but we talked about the language part a little bit, and we're going to come back because that's very important. But being aware of social realities. Thank you, Gabriela G, for noticing that. So the social realities where this project is concerned, we're talking about communities that may be legally protected, legally have some rights because they're scheduled tribes or scheduled tribes, etc. However, the social ground reality is they are totally outside, on the fringe of society. They are not in the mainstream. They have not had, I think Ashokji said, no governmental, I forgot the exact words, but they have not been embraced. They do not have access like many privileged people in India do. Othering, that is the othering of those communities. Now, it's one thing for us to recognize that we are not Wari, we are not Kumani, the pronunciation, from Nainital, the Kumaon tribes.
Kumaoni.
That's the language.
Kumaoni.
That's the language.
It's the adjective
Kumaon.
that is used for the language.
Okay, so we're not Kumani. We are different. We come from different communities. Each one in this group is from a different community. So it's one thing at a personal level to recognize that, yes, we are different. But there is a problem when identity, when one is systematically othered, systematically and systemically, both. The government system others the communities you all are going to. So be aware of that. Do not assume that because these people are in India, they have all access and they have all privileges. No, they are actually systemically othered by the government. Makes a huge difference. We all are going into a place where there is going to be, and that's why Phiroza ji is called madam. There is going to be a class system. They are aware of that class system. They're aware that they do not have access. You have access. You have more power than they do. So be aware of some, and people are getting out of it, some of them. Doesn't mean everyone is getting out of it. So that is a reality you need to be aware of. Another part is, yeah, we've already talked about our own preconceptions, how we need to be aware of that, and non-judgmental. You're going to see a lot of things you're not used to, a lot of things, some things you are used to. Don't judge. Don't judge. Again, when I say don't judge, of course, some things are outright wrong. That is different. But like if you see someone abusing someone, it's outright wrong. But otherwise, if it's a different custom, don't judge. It's a different custom. It doesn't work for you, it works for them. Don't make any assumptions. about anything either. That is important. And this will bring us back to language. Do not make assumptions, for example, diversity of language. I'm so happy the question was asked, which language do they speak? The Warli speak Marathi. In Nainital, you are going to Dehradun and Nainital, but in Nainital, though Hindi is the official language in Nainital, Kumaoni is the local language which is spoken by many more people. So when you go to the Warli people, you're going to have a mix of Hindi and Marathi. Hindi, why? Because they're going to soon realize that you will be speaking Hindi. So to communicate with you, they will be using Hindi. But when they communicate with each other, it's Marathi. A similar phenomenon is going to happen when you go to Nainital. So multilingualism, recognize that multilingualism is the norm in India and the norm where you're going to be. You cannot insist that, oh, I only need Hindi materials, right? Multilingualism actually is the norm now, and even in our own pedagogy, and that's where we'll get into pedagogy. It's something you cannot escape. And it's something not to be afraid of. It's something actually that can enrich the materials you gather. Because your students who are going to be there in your class, remember, you're not there, you're there to collect authentic materials. It is not important that your Hindi be textbook Hindi. Your Hindi needs to be Hindi from the ground there. And if it is mixed with other languages, so be it. Then when you come back, you start tweaking it, tweezing what's going to work for which level. Because that's when you are going to be able to know assumptions, language, diversity, multilingualism. That's when you are going to be able to curate them and enrich your classroom and get your students who are in your classroom, you can get them involved in peer teaching. You're going to have students who speak Marathi. You're going to have fewer students who speak Kumani, but you're going to have students who are multilingual. The minute they realize that it's okay to start pulling from their different languages to slowly increase their proficiency in Hindi, and that's a whole different academic talk on what's called translanguaging, but that's what we all do in life. Right now in our pedagogy in the US, we have been told to ignore it. That whole wave is changing. So you're going to be one of the first people riding that wave and getting materials which is going to actually help improve pedagogy here. Which brings us into what aspects of inclusive pedagogy are specific to teaching a language. When you're collecting your materials, and you can interrupt me anytime if you have a question. When you're collecting your materials and when you are curating them after coming here, always keep in mind that language learners, so we've gone now from while in India to collection, still while in India at the collection stage, and when you come back here and you're preparing them for classroom. Because even if it's authentic material, you don't take it and just throw it in the classroom. You have to prepare it, you have to get it ready for lesson plans, you have to make sure that it is interconnected and it is basically delivering the goal that you have set out for that particular class or sequence of classes. So language learners, keep in mind while collecting and then later while curating, language learners might be specifically vulnerable and sensitive to exclusion. Learning a language is extremely nerve-wracking for many people because you can't learn a language without being wrong, without making mistakes. And a language learner might be specifically vulnerable. They might be a little sensitive to inclusion. Why? Especially in our classes, if you go to the third point, we have heritage language students and non-heritage language students. So some students are, oh yeah, that's just an idiomatic expression, and other students take it literally. And then they have no clue what's happening. So you have to be aware of that when you're getting your materials. Yes, thinking of English, Sri Devi. Absolutely. So true. The other thing is the target language. We briefly talked about that and may not be very relevant right now. I think it is very relevant to our pedagogy in the US, but currently not for this project. And the multilingual student. We've talked about all these 4 topics, which are very, very specific to language teaching. So I think with that, I'm kind of done. If you all have any questions, let me know. Because I want this to be a conversation. I do not want this to be academic talk of, so I've left a lot of time for questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do we have any questions, any comments at this point? I personally always am careful about you know, the whole perpetuation of Orientalist approach to any other place in the world but the West, and the use of Western terminology to designate phenomena or practices that have nothing to do with the context of where this terminology originated. So I think these are very good points. And even if we have to use Adivasis instead of tribes, because it's such an abused term, tribal mentality, us versus them as representing the tribal mentality, sort of including some even violent sort of notes in it. It's just, I agree with you. We have to be very careful when we use. Phiroza, you wanted to say something. You need
They used to call the Adivasis jungli.
Jungli.
Correct.
Another.
So that
Correct.
yes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask the difference between heritage and non-heritage student. That was for me.
So
I
that
think-
is a very interesting
If there's time,
terminology.
otherwise.
There is time. It's very short and very quick.
Okay,
And it's interesting because I think Gabriela Ji and I see it
You didn't
slightly
understand.
differently because it has changed over time. Everything changes over time. So originally when it started, it meant any student who had a linguistic background in the language being learned. But now it means any student who even has a cultural background with the language being learned. So I still prefer to stick to the linguistic, but I do see, and I have to concede, because the wider application is the cultural background with the language, who has had an exposure to that.
And also, again, saying non-heritage is kind of, what do we mean? You mean the student doesn't have heritage? So to avoid that, often we say heritage learners versus foreign language learners.
Yeah, that's a much better term.
May I say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this has been very clearly depicted in Bollywood movies. You know, one of the movies my kids love is Chak De, where hockey players come from Jharkhand, and the person who was registering those kids asked them, "Jharkhand means you come from the Jharis?" That was very offensive to me. You know, I mean, I don't know how the movie industry can also incorporate these kind of concepts where it's not okay to be talking about, you know, terms that is offensive to people. So so much things too. Yeah.
No, excellent comment. I'm glad you brought it up because Bollywood is one of my, I shouldn't say forte, but I use Bollywood a lot in teaching. And another thing, again, when I say be careful with materials you're bringing, you should not exoticize. On the other hand, you're going to find materials like Bollywood, where I constantly have these very disturbing pieces. And you can use that for education. So it doesn't mean you have to dismiss everything. You use it and you start that difficult conversation in class. Why is this not appropriate? What was wrong in this that you have seen? So it's not that I'm saying you have to make everything clean and kosher. You're not going to find, life is not clean and kosher. It's just about getting these conversations going, first being aware of yourself and then getting the conversations going. Yeah.
And it's very close to me because I'm from Assam. And a lot of people in India, especially, I wouldn't mention in which part, they don't even know that Assam is part of India.
Yes.
You know, so and
Absolutely.
where is that? Where is Assam? I'm like, oh my God, you know, we have had winners, national, international level winners in boxing, and you know, from the end, you still don't know where Assam is. I know where South India is, and you know, and that's where the whole equity part of it comes in. So
Absolutely.
sorry, I'm a little bit passionate about this.
No, you're absolutely right. But we have to be very careful when we are doing our materials and then decide, okay, how are we going to be using the ones which are offensive? And how are we going to make sure the ones we create are not offensive? So, yeah, fine balance there. Equity is something I didn't talk about, but equity is very important. And also I want to point out, because we often think, oh, diverse, especially in the Western world, the emphasis is on diversity. And you think the minute you're diverse, you've done your job. But diversity does not mean inclusion and equity. Just look at your own departments or where you're working. You might have 5 women or 5 brown people. Do they have inclusion in decision making? Do they have equity in decision making? Not necessarily. But on paper, the university or your school or wherever you're working can say, yes, we are very diverse. We have 5 women in the department. We are very diverse. We have 5 brown people. We're very diverse. But equity and inclusion is, so be aware, the people you're going to visit, the communities you're going to visit, actually do not have inclusion and equity. They do not. In shaping the country, they're Indians, but they don't have that. So something to be aware of.
So
Ashokji, you were going to say something.
I want to just make a comment that I've been a journalist for a long time in India. So when you look at the Indian society, I mean, there's so many never-ending situations where you can really spot discriminatory activities, and but that is very, very wide areas, and I think for the benefit of our participants, we should also maybe focus. Of course, Gautami has done a great job by giving a presentation on the instruction, because these are very important things on diversity, inclusivity, and equity. The topic of our program is I mean, we are going to produce teaching material curriculum in Hindi related with the area studies. And area studies here is environmental science. So, so we have to go deeper and deeper. Of course, we are going there, and today is the first day. So I would like you or Gabriela to really elaborate a little bit, if you can, a correlation between Hindi teaching and the area studies of environmental science or climate changing, and how it will lead us towards the material development.
Gautami, do you want to start or should I start? I think we lost Gautami for a second. So
I am here, but I think the question was directed to you, Gabriela. But
I thought you or me. That's fine.
oh, okay. You start and I will jump in then.
Okay.
Sorry.
So my first point is understanding what exoticizing mean, and I think it's extremely important. We are teaching India, we're teaching language, and through language, India, and India means a lot of things. But not exoticizing India means we're not glamorizing it, we're not romanticizing it, and we're not isolating it as something that we need to look at only. We're presenting what we want to teach in terms of content in our language classroom as something that is a part of a diverse reality around us is a way to de-exoticize something that is being done in many modes of communication, entertainment, and so forth. And I think that our first and number one point of awareness should be that. And that's why we, Ashokji and I, really insisted that we have this conversation with Gautami as early as possible. When we talk about the content that we will be learning, apparently some of you, including Gautami, you're familiar with certain communities, with the practices of these communities, with the languages of these communities. The reason why we are sort of focused on this content, on learning this content and offering it, is because we actually need to learn from these communities things that we've never known or things that we've forgotten. And this is by itself, offering it as a series of lessons. Maybe we're going to call it a unit or a whole curriculum. The way Audrey mentioned, I think it was Audrey, I think you mentioned environment justice. Was it you or Induja? Audrey, I think.
It was me.
It was Induja, okay. But thinking in terms of justice and global citizenship and thinking about the way the world is interconnected and introducing aspects of this interconnectedness that we've never thought before. That's why sustainability and the reaction of certain communities to climate change or to the changes in nature that happen, whether we formulate as climate change or not, we're not going to argue about that. We're not specialists, but having the students think about it, having the students realize that there are many, many ways and many, many practices to address certain crises or certain directions that we're going into that are definitely going to damage our environment and the future of our humankind and the future of all kinds of living beings around us is extremely important. And having this perspective is enough to make sure that we're not exoticizing India. Gautami, do you want to pick it up from here?
Yeah, excellent. You basically said what I would have said. And I want to add to that, that not only having this perspective will make sure you don't exoticize it, but let's be realistic. We want to have, as Gabriela said, the climate change, etc., is taking a toll. We have a crisis ahead. However, on the other hand, we're not specialists. We're not teaching our students how to protect. We don't, I at least do not have that expertise. I do not know how to. What I'm going to do, if I were you, if I was going to the field, unfortunately, I can't go to the field, but I will still be here helping and supporting as much as I can, especially when you'll get back with the materials. What I would do if I was a participant is be aware that I am learning and coming back with things that I think would be useful, as Gabriela said, to trigger thoughts in my students. Along with that, if you get certain things, again, in our classes, everything is not about how India is great, at least not in my classes. I talk about the caste system, which is not great at all. So it's not about trying to sell India. It's about, this is the problem in India. We have found that these particular communities are living this way. Doesn't mean that their life is perfect. Patrika brought up a point about urbanization. Isn't it inevitable? Is it one thing that we really, like, if we say that, oh, everyone in the Varli community or the Kumani community is happy, not necessarily. They're doing that lifestyle because they have no other option for many of them. So being aware of these things, because when your conversations start in class, it shouldn't be that, oh yeah, see, they have these sustainable practices and it means everyone is happy. No, they have these sustainable practices. Now, I have a student who is in engineering, who is working on sustainability. Can that student from Hindi, from my class, pick up something and run with it? They've learned Hindi, they've learned about this practice, but can they run with that? I'm not trying to replicate that here. So keeping that in mind, I think, is how you're connecting sustainability with Hindi.
And also, this is absolutely, I agree with you. And also, I'm thinking of the 21st century skills and the critical thinking and creativity and the kind of communication that we need to have with the three modes of communication that enriches not only a person's awareness about life and the world, but also a community's perspective on life and the world. So I think in a way we are sort of focused on expanding what we expose our students with in order to have them think, in order to have them create, in order to have them make comparisons and links to things that they know. But Audrey and Induja and Travis might be interested more on the social science of it, might be interested not necessarily to create language units, language teaching units, but content units. And we're going to figure out a way for you to work with those who are creating language units, because you're going to give another point of view in terms of the content you choose, the content you want to focus on. So I don't want to tell everyone, oh, the only thing you're going to produce at the end and think about it now is language teaching units, okay? You're depending on your field, depending on your interest, depending on your job, depending on the reason why you're in this program and you were approved in this program. We're going to negotiate a way for what you produce at the end to be useful for your context and also for our context, okay?
And at some level, your content and our content is the same, because you need to have those content. I hate to make the differentiation between language, because whatever Induja and Audrey and Travis come up with would be content for higher level languages and can be tweaked and tweezed out for lower levels. So you're absolutely right, Gabriela. Those are the most rich, enriching content.
Ashokji, do you want to add?
So yeah, what I'm thinking, Gabriela, maybe we can take a break for 5 or 10 minutes, it depends on you, and then come back for the final hour. That we should encourage and engage our participants also to talk. And of course, that hour is for Nainital, and the expert coordinator, maybe he's sick, I spoke to him. If they don't turn up, like there are two of them, Ajay Rawat and Girish Tiwari, if they don't turn up, I have been to Nainital personally in May, and I can provide my feedback related with the impact of climate change. And other material I will email to everyone. So the final hour we can do that, and then open it, like open discussion about our expectations and work.
Okay, right? Sounds good. So let's take a 10 and then we come back. Now it's 11:55 in New York, and let's come back at 12:05.
Okay.
Okay. See you.
Phiroza ji, can I ask you something quickly? So how would we address people like people who are older to us when we visit the Warli tribe?
I said Dadu. I am just wondering. I said Dadu.
Dadu.
Mom is for your contemporary. Dadu.
Dadu and Dadi for female.
I'll have to observe. I'm going to the village tomorrow. The group is coming for Wali workshop. I have to observe now. Yeah. I'm wondering what I do. I know them personally, so I'll just use the names.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I mean,
think about it.
And then when we are generally in India, when we need someone's attention, we'll just address them as Bhaiya. Hai na? Bhaiya suniye. So
No, but they,
it works there as well, all of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was more concerned about how do we address the elderly people there. So yeah. Dadu, Dadi.
कसा है तू? You just generally have to start a sentence.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And
काय
then
करते? कसा है तू? काय
so
वाटते?
they
काय
address
वाटते?
everyone as tu. The second they address everyone as tu or aap or tum nahi chalta.
No, 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 no. Impossible.
Tu
Not
is
with the
because of
Wildlies.
Marathi.
No, no, they're too
Acha,
informal for that.
acha.
You wouldn't-
I
Tu
see.
is in Marathi. Kasa hai tu is for Marathi.
हाँ,
For-
correct.
So for
for
Hindi,
elderly
it would be
people.
aap because you don't know
काय
that.
करते? मी येऊ काय? आत येऊ काय? I always say मी आहे. कोण आहे काय घरी? मी येऊ काय आत? When I
Okay.
go into the houses.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Patrika, that's where the multilingualism will come in. Because
Yeah, I never thought about it. I'm just she's
right.
making me think about it.
And you have to be very careful. It's okay to have some Marathi in the materials you get, as long as it's
Right.
not all Marathi. But they are going to be adjusting much more than you are.
Okay.
And they are going to be adjusting because for them, you're asking them to do something they're not so used to.
Sure.
So that's another thing where DEI comes into, to be very sensitive. And if they can't, that's fine. Then you get it in Marathi and you all will have to get someone to translate.
I didn't even think about this until I heard your presentation.
But
because
many
then I'm
Varli
like,
people can speak in Hindi, but it's going to be a mixed Hindi, Marathi.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The painters are doing it because when the people come in, they want to speak Hindi.
right.
They're learning it. They're making an effort to learn it.
Okay.
And for some, for non-painters, you might have a translator in between,
Yeah, of course.
someone. So all those things are small little things. You want to make a judgment call when, because we saw in Phiroza Ji's a lot of artifacts. If you're going to be talking of any of them,
Yeah.
are you going to keep the original Marathi word and then
Right.
explain what it is in Hindi?
I know.
That's the way I would go, because hey,
That's the
Yeah,
authentic
because-
material that you collect, right? So
correct.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then explain what it is when you're giving the longer explanation,
Sure, sure.
instead of just trying to find an artificial word that fits in.
Correct. Describe
These
it.
are small
Describe it.
little things to keep in mind.
Describe it.
I think both the presentations today were wonderful and very, very useful. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for taking me back in time, Phiroza. So which year
Yeah,
did you
you're-
graduate from St. Xavier's?
Hmm?
Which year did you
No.
graduate from St. Xavier's?
72.
72. I'm behind.
No,
you.
72 was school. Sorry, 75 was college. 75.
75. I am
Yeah.
10 years behind you. 85.
BSc. Yeah, that's okay. Oh, man.
Our paths may have crossed for all I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, may have. In 80s, who remembers?
No, I got married in 79. I moved to Ghana.
Okay, okay. So you were not involved in the 80s with the Varlis.
In Bombay? No.
Okay. Well,
I
nice
was a
meeting you.
hiker and mountaineer. Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
Yes, thank you.
Good
I'm not going to
night.
meet you, I heard.
Unfortunately.
I gathered.
Yeah. Good night.
Other time, somewhere. Good night. I'm
I'm
always-
sure. I'm sure. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Also gone.
Thank you, Phiroza, and we'll be in
Welcome.
touch. I appreciate your assistance and help and support.
Yeah. Lot of food for thought.
Yes.
Gabriela and Ashokji, I really want to thank you for getting me involved in this project. It's so exciting.
We're excited too. It's a little scary, but we're excited too.
Hey, if you weren't scared, there'd be something wrong. I always tell myself, if I'm not a tad bit nervous, then there's something wrong, because it's going to be very exciting. I wish I could have come. That would have been wonderful.
Yeah. So we
Every-
had
anyway,
Iran,
Hi.
Iran Amin. She is our outside consultant. We are on a break right now. You're coming in the right moment. We were just discussing the how to be aware about the whole issue of diversity and how equity and integration and embracing that diversity can be done in language. So we were discussing how this content that we chose, the sustainability issue, how it is related to language teaching. So we talked a little bit about it. We had a wonderful presentation about one of the communities that we're going to visit in, it's 2 hours north of Mumbai, the Warli community. And our presenter, it's late for her. I think she will go to bed soon, although I see she's still on. Then we had a presentation by Gautami Shah, who is our partner at UT Austin. And she was the one that brought up beyond cultural diversity, how there are many other diversities, and how we need to make sure that we find ways to integrate and embrace these diversities. And I just read the news about Salman Rushdie. Did you read?
Yes.
Oh God, oh, what's wrong with this world?
Full of violence.
Full of violence. Yeah, we talked about what
Yep.
it means to be anti-racist versus non-racist. So we were, I don't know, the world is not easy to navigate. So we have to be very, very focused on how we have our students think alternatively about the world, because the world is just too huge, too global. But the news is not good.
Yeah. Sorry, did I miss part of the, discussion today? Because there's, it was scheduled at noon Eastern time. So I don't know.
It is 9 Eastern time. So we started at 9 Eastern time, but I knew that it's too early for you. So you missed.
No, but you were mentioning some discussions that you had earlier. So I don't know.
Yes, we started at 9.
And where those discussions took place. I don't know.
We started at 9.
Okay.
Garudaji, looks like I was not able to send the program to Iran. Iran, how are you today? Nice.
Good. I can see that we are sitting next to, Golden Gate Bridge, huh?
I cannot see your face, but anyway.
Is that? Yeah.
So, I will include, it's my fault. So I will include you to send the schedule for these virtual workshops we are having every Saturday. So, yeah. And you are welcome to be present in all the sessions. Thank you. So we already had 3 sessions, and now we are going to do the 4th one, and that is dedicated to Garudaji, can I continue?
I think, yeah, in a minute, everyone will be back. I gave them 12:05.
The discussions that you had, we can talk about those details later on. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah.
So yeah, this 4th hour was dedicated to introduction and orientation about water conservation and management in Nainital. Nainital has a very unique situation. So I will wait maybe.
Well, it's 12:05, Shokji,
okay.
So maybe we can start.
So I would take a few minutes to provide an overview of the destinations we are traveling to during our study tour, and why we are going there. So Nainital, we were supposed to go in the end, but we reversed that for the reason of the weather. Nainital is on a high altitude, I think about 3,000 feet. It's the starting hills of Himalayas, so it gets very cold in late November or December. So it was not advisable to go there in the end. So we are now traveling to Nainital, as the first stop in our study tour. So I was in Nainital and all these places in the month of May, as soon as I learned about the approval of this grant. And I was so shocked to see when I reached there that Nainital is a very beautiful hill station with a chain of ponds, Nainital, Bhimtal, and so many. But now everything is has been destroyed already, and now it is in the process of getting destructed. For the simple reason that one place, when I reached there, I was at the bottom of the hill, and I could see that the entire hill is down, like the land erosion is so starkly, dangerously visible that time will come, and I'm certain about that, that Nainital will be cut off from the rest of the hill, so there will be no way to reach there. Why? Because this hills is in between. So as we talk, things are happening over there in terms of climate change and also man-made destruction, like overdevelopment. So there was a report that there was already some landslides and about 45 houses were evacuated, people were evacuated. So the challenges are very, very real, and climate change is a very important factor in those situations, to create those situations. Nainital has a big pond in the middle of the township around which all the development has taken place. So in course of time, and the population growth is enormous. Like you see people all over. Nowadays, they are putting a stop to number of vehicles that can be allowed to go into the city on the hilltop. And because of all this situation, but basically there is no curb on the development or the number of vehicles they can accommodate in the hill station, the city of Nainital. So I know that our expert Ajay Rawat and Tiwari, they are not here for some reason, and these things may happen that we miss out on some people, but more or less it should not happen. Nainital is the home of Kumayu University, with which we had agreement. We have some kind of understanding with the vice chancellor. I met him personally, that they will help us in this climate change study to provide their resources, which I'm sorry to say they have not done enough. But through them, we are reaching out to the activists and NGOs in the area who are active in cleaning the pond, who are active in helping local people who are affected by the land erosion. So overall, what you're going to see in Nainital is that people are very widely affected, because whenever there is monsoon floods, and flood is, I mean, more flood is because of the climate change. So we are going to observe that. And I plan to share with all the participants some videos and some information, the latest current one, which I have collected from the Indian TV networks or some websites. So we'll know more about that. Now, from Nainital, after spending 3 days, we will return towards Dehradun, and in between there is a huge forest reserve called Jim Corbett. So we are stopping there for one night in Jim Corbett National Park, and I'm working on to plan a jungle safari to see that how the wild animals are being helped or not being helped by the local authorities for their resources, like drinking resources or food, or even migration. And Jim Corbett is the open area, which is not, there is no boundary for that. It's huge, like about 100 miles area. And we will observe that. I will make our own conclusion. And from there, we'll come to Dehradun, where we'll be staying in the campus of Mandana Shiva, that's called Earth University. We will see more things about varieties of seeds they have developed. and the biodiversity they have protected. From Dehradun, we'll come back to India. It's all in the itinerary, but I'm just repeating that. We'll come back to Delhi, and then we'll fly to Mumbai, so that from Mumbai we can we can have road journey towards Dahanu. That is the place where the Warli tribal communities are settled, like 10 miles area near Dahanu, the coastal city. And then Phiroza will lead us towards their villages for 3 days and 3 nights. And then we'll return to Mumbai and fly back to Delhi. And in the final stage of our final leg of journey, we'll go to Rajasthan, which I think we are spending most of the time, like majority of time, about 8 days with Dr. Rajendra Singh. Dr. Rajendra Singh has helped the local villagers raising the underground water, and that has really changed the life of people who no longer have to travel. And there are so many things related. There's also a national park there where animals can get water easily, much easier than before. And because of the work done by Dr. Rajendra Singh, who is the Megasys Award winner. And these people are doing, one point, Gautami said that we are not there to find a solution. Well, the solutions are there. We have to see that and observe. For example, the climate change has created water scarcity. But these people, these NGOs and activists, they have spent decades working with people and rejuvenating those sources with traditional means. This is happening in Rajasthan. It's happening in Dehradun. At Warli settlement, we see the sustainability and how the tribals have really protected themselves from the overall impact of climate change. And in spite of all that, they're able to lead a sustainable life. So climate change, its impact on these societies, you are going to see all these places. And what we are doing, we are of course trying to find solutions. And how far you be successful, all the participants have to look at these realities firsthand and interact with among each other. So creative thinking is a very important part of the whole process. And all of this should reflect in their curriculum, in their teaching material, under the guidance of Gavrila ji, Gautami ji, Iran ji. So this is basically what we are doing in all the 4 destinations. The other parts where we see the scarcity, like in Rajasthan, even in Dahanu, some resources are scarce. And in Nainital, we see the reverse. We don't see water scarcity, we see overflooding. We see land erosion. That place should not have a water problem. It has the problem because of erosion and flooding. So I have to say that, and now I will leave the floor for an open discussion, and I would hope that all the 12 participants are involved and they have questions about today's presentation, about these locations, about anything in general that is relating to this program to us and the instructors. So over to all of you.
One more thing I wanted to mention,
Yes.
Ashokji, which is a part of our exploration. For example, the Wadli community creates these visual narratives through their paintings. And this is how they transmit knowledge, transmit ideas, transmit traditions. They train their own young generation to make these drawings, but the narratives embedded in these drawings are something that we need to explore, because visual language is still language, and it has encoded everything we want to know about their practices. On the other hand, this is easy to see, this is easy to explore, this is easy to ask questions about. On the other hand, we want to know the kind of narratives that circle the communities, the rural areas that we will visit. What kind of stories do they tell? Is nature a part of these stories? How is nature represented in these stories? How is the contact with nature, the community members in nature represented in these stories? These are sort of the narratives that we want to explore, because we want to teach the content, but we want to teach it through how language represents this content in the context, in the setting, in the authentic environment, right? So this is also something we need to be thinking about. What songs do they sing? When do they sing them? How is the relationship between the individual and nature represented in these songs? So we have quite a lot of ways of exploring not only what actually happens, not only the sort of certain events, how they're handled by the community, or certain natural phenomena, or certain sustainable circularity that is being practiced by the community, but also how does language embed all this? Our goal is to explore authenticity in the content. And I think that those of you who are into, we have Professor Tiwari entering. Those of you who are interested in music, who are interested in folk tales, who are interested in song singing or song composition or performance, these are all things we're going to decide how we're going to explore. Some will do one thing, others will focus on other things, and then we will come together in the evening and say, oh, that's what we collected. Let's see how it comes together. So I'm very excited about it. But just to let you know that Professor Tiwari entered the room, and we want to say welcome. What about dance? Absolutely, Rachna, absolutely. So Professor Tiwari is here to talk to us about a little bit about Nainital and the work that's done there. Ashokji? Ashokji, you want to unmute yourself?
I don't hear. Tiwari ji.
जी.
Namaskar, namaskar. So,
जी, नमस्कार.
Professor Tiwari is the head of the Department of Journalism at Kumar University. He's also a local correspondent of a very popular newspaper called Amar Ujala. And recently, he was interviewed by the channel Aaj Tak about the land erosion that is taking place. So, आपका स्वागत है. Or I just want to add one thing, Gabela ji and all the participants, that Mr. Tiwari lives in Nainital. So he is a witness to whatever is happening in terms of climate change in that part of the world. And with his help, we connected with Mr. Ajay Raut, who is a very elderly person, a scholar and historian, to talk more in detail, but that's okay. Mr. Tiwari is a competent person, and he's very close to the Vice Chancellor of the Kumar University. And he showed me how the entire hill is giving away. So before, so I will ask Tiwari to provide an overview. Of course, she was not prepared, so we'll share the material with everyone. But just a small comment about World, because I visited that in May. And Gabrielji, I want to say that what amazed me is that these people whom we consider poor and many times backward, they are so close to the metropolitan town, city of Mumbai. It is surprising. They do their work themselves, like feeding their cattle, their animals, do the cooking, everything. And then they also get engaged in the painting. And those Warli paintings are of world qualities. I know I was in 80s, Maharashtra government, the state government of Maharashtra did try to commercialize and sell those paintings at various locations, but I did not see any tangible effort to preserve. Somebody was talking about preserve the worldly tradition in some sort of archive or museum. But we still have to see if they have something in Prince of Wales. We'll watch that. So the point I'm trying to make is that we have not seen, and I'm not aware of, a mass-scale migration of these villagers, the Wali tribals, to cities for work, but they are self-sustained. They are doing their job, and they look very happy. They can do their own housing, their own agriculture, fishing, etc. And the only trace of government involvement I could find in the local schools, which have been constructed, like buildings have been constructed by government and some NGOs, but I don't know how much the local art and culture is taught in the schools. So all these things, our participants will watch and observe and talk to the people. And the program is expecting you to talk as many people as possible when you are in India. So it is entirely up to you. After said that, myself and Gabriela are always available to react to your feedback, to your questions. So feel free to call us or email us. Now, we'll be going to be in touch. And now I would ask Tiwari to provide a current picture of what is happening in Nainital in terms of climate change and land erosion. And you saw the overflooding, you sent the picture, so उसके बारे में आप बताइए.
तो बात हिंदी में रखें हम या किस तरह रखें?
आज पहला दिन है तो हम लोग अंग्रेजी में चाहते हैं क्योंकि सब लोगों को जरा समझ में आए इसके लिए, लेकिन बाद में हम अंग्रेजी में शिफ्ट करेंगे, हिंदी में करेंगे. पहले आप अंग्रेजी में कर सकें तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank Shri Ashok Ojha ji and Gabriela ji for giving me this opportunity to interact with you, all of you, and joined you in this important mission where you are coming to Nainital in the month of October, I suppose, to study all these calamities.
31st of October, yeah.
1st of October. 1st of October, 1st of November.
31st of October.
31st of October. Okay.
We will arrive in Nainital.
Okay. So I would like to keep my points in brief. Nainital recently is suffering from landslides from all the sides, from east, west, north, all the sides it is suffering from landslide. And it is already prone to landslides. The structure of Nainital Hills that is made of such rocks, such calcium rocks, which are already very prone to landslide. And the history of Nainital started with a landslide that changed the history and geography of Nainital both. Nainital was discovered in the year 1941. In fact, it already existed there. But the discovery is supposed to be in 1941 by an English man, Peter Barron. So he came to Nainital. And before that, people over the world did not know about the existence of such a beautiful place. After that only people knew about it. And it is hardly 175 years that this place has been discovered. And in this period, there have been so many landslides and so many calamities that now people realize that this is prone to landslide. And we should do something to restore it for the future. So first landslide in the recorded history of Nainital that occurred in 1880. And that landslide changed the geography of Nainital. This landslide started from a hillside that is called Alma Hill. From Alma Hill, this landslide started in the month of September. 18 September, it happened. And 151 people died because of this landslide. 151 is a very big number. keeping in mind that at time the population of Nainital was merely 4 or 5,000. Out of these 150 people, 42 were European and rest were Indian. So Britishers were alarmed by this calamity, and they started major products to restore this type of landslide in future. And they made so many nalas, 62 nalas they made. Nalas, that water of hillside was carried to the lake through these nalas, and land erosion was stopped because water was channelized. And the length of these nalas was 79 kilometers. This is supposed to be longest such type of nala making, or 79 kilometers, that was highest in the recorded history at that time, all over the world. So this restored Nainital quite a lot. Britishers also took many other measures also. They made a hillside safety committee, and many senior officers were member of this committee, and that study Nainital very minutely and very frequently, say within 15 days or within a month. Every 15 days, every 30 days, they used to hold meeting and study the various points of Nainital, what is happening there. The structure of Nainital was changed by that landslide. There is a huge flat in Nainital besides the famous Naini Lake. That flat was made only due to that landslide. And that was, in fact, that was a boon for Nainital for future. And there is famous temple of Naina Devi in Nainital. That temple was also destroyed in that landslide, and later it was erected in another place. So all these are very important milestones of history of Nainital, and they, because of the landslide only. In later years, because of the precautions taken by the Britishers, land erosion, landslide stopped for quite a long time. But later it started in other places, some other places. Inside Nainital, there was no major landslide till date, since then. No major landslide. Inside the town of Nainital. Town of Nainital itself is very small. It is not a big town. But afterwards, there were no big landslides. But in periphery of Nainital, very close periphery of Nainital, there were many other landslides also. One to mention here is Balyanala landslide. Balyanala, that is the root of Nainital town. Or you may say it is the foothill of Nainital. Nainital starts from there when you come up to Nainital from Tarai or plains. So when you reach Nainital, you cross the Balyanala. And Balyanala has been prone to landslide since 1867. First landslide was occurred there in 1867. And 23 people died in that landslide. There was a famous beer factory, and beer from that place was supplied to all over India. That beer factory was also destroyed in that landslide. Afterwards, in 1889 and 1898 also, there were other major landslides in Balyanala. So when you people will come over here, we will study Balyanala as a case study, because erosion in Balyanala is going on. Balyanala erosion is going on since 155 years. In Nainital, as I repeat, there has been no major landslide after 1880. But in Balyanala, landslide is continuously going on since 155 years. And in some particular years, that is 1867, 1889, 1898, there was major landslide in that area. And now, for a few years, or say a few decades, it is continuously eroding every time, and particularly in the rainy season. People residing near Balyanala, they are shifted from here to some other safer, so-called safer places from there, because residing in Balyanala region during the rainy season is very dangerous. Many families have been shifted from there to other places. And after rainy season, they again come to their houses. So this practice is also going on since say 20 or 25 years. Every year during rainy season, they have to stay somewhere else. This year also, 55 families have been shifted from Balyanala region to other places. So through this example, you can understand that and it is continuously increasing every year. Day by day, it is increasing, and no remedy has so far been found to restore it or cure this. So many projects have been made. Few years back, a project of 630 crore rupees was made with the help of a Japanese agency, that is JICA. JICA made a report and government planned to execute to restore Balyanala, but it was not restored. It has not been restored. So no proper cure has been found till date. Now, last year also, another project was made of 300 crore rupees, but in fact, there has been no work in the field itself. Only files are going on, but there is no work done, no practical work done in the Balyanala. Now, this year, there have been some minor landslides inside the town also. One of them is towards the western hill, that is in the Pashar Devi. There is a temple, there is a famous temple, Pashar Devi, in the western hill, near Pashar Devi temple. There has occurred a landslide this year, and that has also not been cured for months now. Few days back, another landslide in the upper region of this place, that is called Tiffin Top. That is the top, that is a hilltop of Nainital, that is called hilltop, that is called Tiffin Top. And there is a particular place where tourists visit most of the tourists visiting Nainital, they visit that place also, that is called Dorothy Seat. Dorothy was an artist, a European artist, and she used to sit there and make beautiful paintings. So while returning from Nainital to Scotland, she died in the way itself, and her husband made this seat there in the Tiffin Top, and that is a very popular tourist destination, that very popular tourist place of Nainital, and lakhs of tourists visit this place every year. Now, few days back, it has also started giving way, and landslide has reached that place also. I will show you some photographs of Nainital so that you can better understand this position, where this landslide is occurring and how Nainital looks like. So I share a few photographs. First of all, I would like to show you Nainital. Am I audible to you?
Yes.
This is Nainital. You can see what a beautiful lake there is, surrounded by hills from three sides. And plains is on the other side, where you see this orange clouds. That place goes to plains or Tarai region.
और आगे चलिए तिवारी जी.
This is another photograph of Nainital. So here, if I zoom it, you can see.
No, we are not able to see the next picture.
No, this picture you can see.
अभी पहला देख रहे हैं सिर्फ.
No, we don't see the second one.
This is the second one. Is it visible? No?
No.
Let me start again. Now?
No. Why don't you stop sharing and then share again?
Okay, तिवारी जी आप हैं यहाँ पे? Have you lost him?
Well, I
I
see.
think rejoin कर रहे हैं वो शायद,
Mm,
ऐसे लग रहा है.
yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe with another device.
I think
Yes.
he's connecting.
Professor
No,
Tiwari,
there
you're
is
back.
some connectivity problem was there.
Okay.
So I will try to share once again.
Yes, please.
Is it visible now?
अभी आपका स्क्रीन हाँ स्क्रीन हो रहा है हाँ अभी दिख रहा है
Ji. So this, you can see how beautiful Nainital is. And from three sides, it is surrounded by high hills. I will try to zoom this photograph. Can you see it?
वो पूरा हाँ अभी बड़ा हो गया ये
So the place where this landslide took this year is at the periphery of lake, where this red roof you can see. Beside this landslide happened last year, which I told you that has not been cured. And at the top of it, the hill you can see, that is the tiffin top. Just if you draw a straight line from this red roof to the top, so that top is tiffin top and Dorothy seat is there.
So we can also one suggestion Tiwari ji. I know there are other video footage, for example, your interview with Aaj Tak and also some land erosion shots that we can share with our participants later on. I will email them or
This you can see. Can you see this photograph?
Oh, wow.
This is the photograph of the major landslide that occurred here in 1880. And you can see where the debris of this landslide is collected at the bottom. So this lake was extended up to few, say half more kilometer. And that was filled with the debris of this landslide, and that made it a flat place. So people say this was a boon, in fact, for Nainital, and this changed geography for the betterment of Nainital. And due to this landslide, Britishers made Nainital more secure, and Nainital became very secure after that. So in fact, sharing is making it slightly difficult for you, I understand, but I have to show you few photographs. Now, this is the land. This place is called Dorothy Seat. This, in fact, this may look small to you, but this is very important for Nainital, and this place is very important for the point of view of tourists coming to Nainital. As I told you earlier, lakhs of tourists visit this place every year, and you can see how this is giving place. And I don't think when you come to Nainital, you can see this place like this. It will have gone by then. Now, the reporting about Nainital, you can see. This is the most important newspaper of this area, that is Amar Ujala. This is most important newspaper. And this is a very recent reporting of Nainital. You can see one full page has been given to all these things. The main heading is Pahadi Darakne se Bhawali Nainital Marg Dwast. So another landslide took place on Nainital Bhawali motor road. 4 kilometers from Nainital, only 4 kilometers from Nainital, this landslide happened and the whole road gave way. You can see here. And it has not been restored so far. People going to Bhavali, that is only 10 kilometers from Nainital, they have to take a very long round of 30 kilometers. This also you can see, ki roads. Another heading says, साल भर पहले दर की सड़कों को मरम्मत की दरकार. That means कि the roads that gave way last year, they have not been repaired since then. This says, फिर गिरे पत्थर ग्रामीणों में दहशत. That people are living under fear due to fall of stones and rocks everywhere near Nainital. So this year you can say condition of Nainital is quite sensitive. It has become very sensitive this year. And newspapers are filled with the reports like this. So there are so many such reports. They can give you a picture of Nainital, ki what is happening around Nainital. This was the report in the newspaper Marujala itself about Dorothy seat. This happened only few days back, and district collector of Nainital has given a statement here that they are trying to restore it. There are so many other photos also, with some videos also there, and I will send all these reports and records to Ashok Ojaji in due course. One more thing I want to tell about you, that Nainital depends for potable water on Naini Lake itself, only on Naini Lake. So, and Naini Lake, it gets charged through rainwater every year during monsoon. Now, suppose there is less rainfall, so this lake is not filled, and the water scarcity is for its people to face all around the year. In the past, also in many years, it has happened that that Naini Lake was not recharged fully, and people have to suffer this lack of water all through the year due to that. Now, this year again, this has started showing signs because of less rainfall. This year, there has been very little rainfall. There is a list given here that this year only 783 millimeter rainfall has been witnessed by Nainital. Up to now, say just 2 days back, just up to 2 days back, only 783 milliliter rainfall has been received by Nainital. While you can see other years, what was the picture like? 1,407 milliliters last year. Before last year also, likewise. Say in some years it was up to 4,411 millimeters also, or 3,091 millimeters, 3,620 millimeters, and likewise. While this year it is only 783 milliliters rainfall has been received by Nainital, and lake is less than half filled. So if Nainital does not receive high rainfall in last 15 days of monsoon only, monsoon is for 15 days only. By August end, monsoon is over normally. So in these 15 days, if there is not very heavy rainfall in Nainital, so this time also, Nainital people will have to face scarcity of water. And when you come here, you will see the lake that will not be in a very good condition like other years. So these are some problems that Nainital is facing and that are subject to study. These matters are very important matters, very important subjects of study when you come here, and we will visit these places, Naini Lake, Balyanala, Dorothy Seat, all these places. How much time we get, we will try to see these places, and we will try to conduct study in these places. So that is all about I wanted to tell you. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you, Tiwari ji. we all look forward to our worthwhile, meaningful visit to see both overflooding, land erosion, and water scarcity, and also to meet the NGOs who are working to restore the Nanny Lake. So, as our export coordinator, please keep that in mind. And as you said, any questions from the group, please come forward and ask it. And Grace ji will be happy to answer that now.
Induja has a question. Induja, do you want to ask?
Yeah, I think it is the chat. What is the
weather of Nainital say these days is highest temperature is up to 33, 34 degrees and minimum temperature 16 degrees. And weather is very pleasant these days. It is neither hot nor cold. And Nainital is looking very beautiful. Other than these landslides, other than these pictures, Nainital is looking very beautiful. And you will, when you will visit Nainital, you will love it, and you will love to visit it time and again. And when you will be coming by the end of October, it will be slightly cold, and you will have to keep some warm clothes with you.
Professor Tiwari, what are the practices for ensuring that water is clean from the lake?
Water from the lake, that is not directly drawn from the lake, in fact. It is drawn from tube wells around lake. And some tube wells, in fact, they are quite far away from lake, say 500 or 800 meters away from lake. So water is drawn through these tube wells. And then it is cleaned in Jal Sansthan, that is water supplying body here. And it is cleaned by them through various techniques. In fact, some years back, they tried to supply RO water in every household of Nainital. And that time, the health of lake was not so bad. And Nainital was very, very lucky to receive 24 hours water, 24 hours continuous running water, and that too RO water. People used to wash their clothes through RO water. But now situation is not that good. And now only 2 hours water supply is there, 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. And sometimes this also has to be reduced. So water is very clean, water is good, and it is not directly drawn from the
What
lake.
is RO water, Tiwari? Can you explain? You said RO water.
RO water, RO is a technical term. And it is cleaned, that is perfect for drinking.
I think RO stands for reverse osmosis.
Reverse osmosis, that is a process of cleaning water. Reverse osmosis, exactly. And that is a process of cleaning water. And that water is supposed to be the purest form. RO water is supposed to be the purest.
Rachna has a question also.
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation, Tiwari ji. I've never been to Nainital. I'm looking forward to it. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure, yes.
So, I just had a question because I work on sustainable, projects. I was just wondering, have Nainital started using rainwater harvesting techniques so that they can, whatever, rainwater harvesting you can do can be diverted back to the lake? Because, I mean, I know they form aquifers, but if we can harvest some of it and divert it to the lakes, maybe that's going to help supplement the water supply for most of Nainital people.
Some of you asked about the population of Nainital. So population of Nainital right now stands around 50,000.
Okay.
And this water harvesting, that is mainly in files. So many projects have been made to harvest water in Nainital. But in practicality, you can't see it in practical in Nainital. But this year, there is a scheme going on because India is celebrating 75th years of its independence. So government had started a scheme that is Amrit Mahotsav. Amrit Mahotsav, that is a festival that is because of 75 years have been completed. So under this Amrit Mahotsav, some lakes, some natural type of lakes are being made at different places. So in Nainital, there are some places that are called wetlands, where water oozes from these wetlands and that goes underground into the Naini Lake and that recharges it. But water is not stored there. They are only wetlands. They look like wetland and there is no lake-like body there. So government has made 3 or 4 such ponds at these places, and they have been made. So they have started working. Water has been accumulated there in these lakes, and now it will go to the Naini Lake by seeping through the forest and land. And there is also another lake in Nainital that in fact is not lake. The name of that place is Sukhatal. Sukhatal, that means dry lake. So that is a big area where water collects during the monsoon, say up to 2 or 3 feet only. And then it goes into the Nainital underground through seeping. So that is also a major source of recharging Naini Lake. So now this year, another project is going on, and there, yes, Sandhya ji has have seen Sukhatal. So a major project is going on there to keep this filled with water around the year. And that project is also going on, and that water will also ultimately go to the Naini Lake through underground seepage.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anubhuti?
Yeah, thank you so much, Tiwari-ji. I'm very much looking forward to come to Nainital. I wanted to know how much forest cover has decreased over the last few years, say in this century. And the second one is there any regulation on fresh constructions in Nainital now?
There is regulation on fresh constructions in Nainital. Very much regulations are, so many regulations are there. Nainital has been divided into 3-4 categories for the purpose of construction. One of the categories is called safe zone. So where you can, with the permission of the government agencies, you can build a small house up to 2 floors only. Ground floor and first floor only. And up to 25 feet height. So that is said to be a safe zone. Then there is a prohibited zone. In that prohibited zone, you cannot make any constructions. And then there is another zone that is called green zone. So green zone where there is say forest, there are so many trees and forest land. That is private land is also there, but that is called green land, and their construction is not allowed at all. So all this is in files only, and in practicality, construction is going on in all these areas abundantly. And in a green area, the maximum construction in Nainital, this is very surprising to know that maximum construction in last 2 or 3 decades in Nainital has been done in this prohibited and this greenland area, where construction is not allowed at all. No maps can be sanctioned. No water or electricity connection is given to the houses made there, but all is going on. They are getting electricity connection also. They are getting water connection also. They are making 2, 3, 4 floors also, though maps are not sanctioned. And time and again, some activities to demolish such construction goes on there. These days also such type of activities going on, and then again then people come up with fresh constructions.
So we have 5 minutes left out of our scheduled time frame, but we can still take some questions for Tiwari-ji. So any more questions for him?
Milind has a question about the population of Nainital. Milind-ji?
Yes,
I said 50,000.
Yes.
Yeah, I have another question. Maybe very, very elementary question, but have they found out what exactly is the cause of all the landslides? If it is happening for like centuries.
Yes, that is.
Because I see lots of ground cover. I see lots of trees. So trees roots, they kind of hold the soil. You know, that's the reason why trees are planted, to hold the soil together so that landslide doesn't take place. But even if there is taking place, there could be one reason, seismic activity could be one reason.
No,
nobody can control.
No, that cannot be for that no one can forecast about seismic activity, though Nainital is in zone 4 of seismic activity. And zone 4, Dehradun is also in zone 4, Delhi is also in zone 4. Tehri Dam that has been made, that is a 785 feet high Tehri Dam, and very large lake has been made there, and that is also on zone 4. So zone 4 doesn't matter like that. But there are two main reasons for your question. One of the reasons is as I said in the beginning, that the Nainital, the rocks are not very stable. The rocks in Nainital, they are made of calcium, and they are not very stable. They are prone to landslide. Number one. Number two, deforestation. Trees have been cut in large number in Nainital. Although plantation has also been done in large number, and when you see Nainital, most of the part you will see green. As I showed you in that photographs also, as you can see in my back also, that is also a backdrop of Nainital. So there you can see plenty of trees. Mostly you will see greenery here, but still deforestation has also been illegal. That is illegal. That is not legal. You can't cut trees over 1,000 meters in India.
Do you have any statistics? Anubhuti has a question whether what the decline in forest cover is in the last 20-25 years.
No, if you see, not major decline. Not major decline. And if you see old pictures of Nainital and compare them to recent pictures, you will see they look more like each other. So there is not much difference. There is not much difference. But heavy construction has been done there. Hills are already prone to landslide. Heavy construction has been done. That is illegal, and that is mostly on that part that I showed you, that where that landslide occurred at Alma Hill. So in that area, heavy construction has taken place, and load has extended quite a lot. One thing. So one thing, deforestation, heavy construction, and the landslide prone rocks. And one is that faults cross Nainital. So many faults. Faults are such lines where land can give way quite easily. So they cross through this Naini Lake also. They pass through that Dorothy Seat and the place I showed you there. They pass through Balyanala also. So these faults are such places where landslide can occur easily, quite easily.
So
Mamta has her hand up.
Yes.
It's 12:59, so we need to be short and brief.
Sure. Thank you, Professor Tiwari ji, for a wonderful discussion. My question is, I have heard cloudburst activity in the region. Does it have any connection with the landslide and the construction? Are they interrelated?
And just to Tiwari ji, just a connecting question to Mamta ji. Do you think that climate change has created any problem in Nainital? For example, last year there was large scale overflooding that water were flowing through the houses in Nainital. You send the pictures. So what do you have to say on that?
In fact, that question needs a deeper study. We can't outright say that all this is happening due to climate change. And to study climate change, you have to study for a very long period of time. Then you can come to a conclusion. Outright saying that climate change is a reason, I don't think that is befitting. Anyway, such things are happening. The weather has changed in Nainital quite a lot. In my memory also, there was heavy rainfall in Nainital, and rainfalls to continuously for 4 days, 5 days, 7 days even, continuous. And people of Nainital, local people of Nainital, this pattern of rainfall that it will continue up to 4 days, or it will continue up to 7 days. And they used to call it Satladi. That means they will last up to 7 days. So rain will continue up to 7. Now this pattern has changed altogether. Now we don't see such type of rain. Now what we see, very heavy rainfall for a few hours only, and then no rainfall for many days. So this is very dangerous for for the place, because sun for some days and then rain and then sun and then rain. So this supports landslide. This is a cause of landslide, increased landslide. So when the land dries, then again water goes into it. Then it dries and water goes into it. So this is one of the major causes of landslide, increased landslides. And as far as this cloudburst is associated, that is not associated with Nainital. In places nearby Nainital, we have not witnessed cloudburst. We have witnessed it in Uttarakhand, in many places, but not in Nainital. But it can happen anywhere. Because as I told you, now what we see, heavy rain for some time. So heavy rain for some time, that is a part of, that is very heavily for some time, not for long, for a shorter time, but a heavy rainfall. So this is happening in many places in Uttarakhand, and this is because of climate change. But in Nainital, we have not seen, but we can see anytime. Because
Okay,
this is
Tiwari,
going,
I think we are here for a long time now. So any questions, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to email me or Gabriela ji, and we'll be happy to respond to that. And I think Tiwari ji has covered all of the areas about Nainital, and we'll continue to study that. Thank you, Tiwari ji, and with your guidance, we are coming to Nainital to see all this ourselves. And now for the rest of the week, starting Sunday, we will work on preparing for the second session. So thank you for your presentation, Tiwari ji, and then I will be in touch with other experts which are going to present the following Saturday. So in between, Gabriel, any comment? Iranji, any comment?
I reminded everyone in the chat. Thank you, Iran. I reminded everyone in the chat to join the Google Classroom. 2 of the presentations are already uploaded. I will wait for Gautamiji to send me hers. It will be uploaded. Ask your questions there. You can use my WhatsApp. I sent it in an email, and or email us. So I think we had a very informative session. We introduced each other. I would say relatively well. We know who can do what and who cannot do what. So if we are stranded in an island, we know how to survive. So surviving this program will be a challenge. Surviving it successfully, even a bigger challenge, but I'm sure we will eventually overcome everything. So I see Anubhuti is already saying bye. Thank
also
you.
how to join your Google Classroom, Gabriel.
I sent the link. It's an invitation link. So it's.
I didn't see the link. If you could kindly send it to me, because we need to have an invite in order to be able to see the
yes,
page.
So I. This is the link. This is the link again. It embeds the password, so you should be fine.
Yeah. Email it.
Okay, it's in the chat, Iran, but I will email it to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Email to everyone if possible, Gabriela.
Okay. Okay. I will email to everyone the link again. No problem.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. We'll see you soon. And in the meantime, let us know if you have any suggestions or questions, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.